We gather this morning in this sacred place, made holy by the presence of each of us. In what is a long and winding path of life, we find ourselves here. Whatever your reasons, whatever your needs, we have chosen to be here this morning together. In this holy moment, may we trust the truth of the love gathered here.
I invite Marianne to come forward and light our chalice. And all please join us in lighting our chalice by saying the chalice lighting words found in your order of service and displayed upon the screen. We light this chalice for the warmth of love, for the light of truth, and for the energy of action. Thank you, Marianne. Good morning. Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Ogden. My name is Dylan, and I'm the worship lead today. The UU Church is a welcoming, inclusive place where diversity of thought is encouraged, sought, and appreciated. It doesn't matter who you love or how you identify yourself. We come here because we want to think for ourselves and explore with others. We ask questions, value the exchange of ideas and the depth that can come from being in community. If you're new here today, welcome. Thanks for coming. Fill out a newcomer card in the pews and put in the offering basket when it comes by later. And please stay and chat with us after the service. Today we are joined by our new minister, Kristin Famula. Kristin will generally be joining us online, and we are glad to have her in person today. Please put your phones on silent, but feel free to take pictures of the service and to post what you see and hear online. Send the message to the broader community. The presence of each and every one of you adds to the atmosphere, and we are glad you're here. Welcome.
When I first learned to speak, where was the word holy? Why was it reserved for church as if it were not living in everybody? Where was the word? Where is the word? Holy is the word your heart speaks silently when you wake early and the light is rising. It is the word for birds returning when the chill of winter is still, when it is still tightening in your chest. Holy is the word for your grandmother's love, for the humility of trees, for the sleepless nights of worry. Holy is the friends who show up again and again. Holy is the loyalty of animals. Holy is the birth of every child and the grief of every loss. Holy is the cost of knowing love. Holy is the invitation to be worthy of wonder and wondering. Holy is the dignity that speaks in silence and challenges your eyes to open. Holy is the beauty of feeling the pain of others. Holy is the wound, and holy is the healing. Holy is the name of justice. It is the name of those who live and die without it. Holy is the name for the earth, the cathedral where we praise and hurt. Holy is the only word we have to learn. Holy is the name. Holy is the name of every creature ever made. Yay! Are we allowed to start a sermon like that? Yay! We're together in person. It's Sunday morning. I'm your new minister, and we are here together. Can we get a collective wahoo? What a journey it has been to get here. And I don't just mean since I met a few of you in Albuquerque a few months ago when I was doing a ministerial internship. I mean a years-long journey to get to here. When your board president, Dylan, picked me up on Friday night to gather for the meet and greet with many of you, it felt hard to believe that we were really doing this. Many of you already know that we'll be doing ministry together for just this 1 year. And ironically, one of the things that I'll be doing is supporting you in finding another minister, a different minister. At the board meeting last week, we laughed that as I was joining my very first board meeting as your minister, we simultaneously had as an agenda item to discuss how we would go about calling a new minister. I'm sure that the irony is lost on no one. Many years ago, I was chit-chatting with a colleague of mine, and I made an offhand comment. It was something silly like, I was having a good morning, but then I lost my keys. Ugh. And my colleague stopped me and she asked about the word but. I was having a good morning, but then I lost my keys. She said that it seemed to negate the first part of what I had shared. Have you heard this before? She encouraged me to try to reframe with and instead. Maybe something like, I was having a good morning and I lost my keys and I felt frustrated. And I remember internally rolling my eyes about this suggestion, thinking, what a ridiculously trivial thing when I'm just talking about how my day is going. Who cares? The next day, however, I woke up thinking about it. And when in conversation that day, inevitably the word but came out of my mouth, I paused. And honestly, I felt a little annoyed because her comment had gotten into my head. And for days after that, I noticed all the times that but bubbled up into my sentences. And soon after, I wasn't just noticing the word, I was working to find a reframe. A way to recognize that it is possible for seemingly contradictory statements to both be real at the same time. And the more I became aware of it, the more it became like a spiritual practice, like a quiet internal mantra to possibility. And so I encourage you to try it if you don't already. There was just something that shifted for me when I tried letting two things be true at the same time. Sentences like, I'm feeling excited about this upcoming workshop, but I'm feeling anxious about my leadership role, suddenly became opportunities for a little bit of self-compassion and realness. A silent acknowledgement that I can be both excited and anxious. They don't have to negate each other. This reframe has given me almost a daily opportunity, an invitation to pause in the moments when I'm about to offer a but and to just let the juxtaposition or the nuance exist instead. And so as we've been preparing for this ministry together, I've been thinking about this practice of holding space for a duality or a multiplicity of feelings. Over the past couple of weeks, it's been such a pleasure to get to know many of you in one-on-one chats and group conversations. And in those meetings, I've heard you name some of your own practice of and in this congregation. I've heard it when you shared how you look back on the history of this church with both sadness and joy, especially when you think about the moments when the congregation was particularly vibrant and active, and you wonder what has changed. And I've heard your hopefulness and excitement about the future, and also a feeling of uncertainty and worry. I've seen your outreach materials when you all began looking for a minister. Your flyer said, "Dynamic UU Church in Utah seeks energetic, creative, and adventurous minister." And when you envisioned this new position, you were seeking a full-time, settled minister, someone who would stay a while to help lead you into the next phase of your ministry together. You likely were not imagining this particular ministerial arrangement. A part-time minister living in another state and being with you for just 1 year. And here we are. In my conversations with many of you, I've heard the complexity of feelings related to that reality. Apprehension and relief, disappointment and excitement, frustration and optimism. I feel like I just want to sigh. You all want to do a collective sigh with me? Just an exhale. Naming these multiple truths feels obvious in some ways. And yet there are so many places in our lives where we only bring a part of ourselves. Only the parts that feel like they'll be well received, or the pieces that feel like they'll match what we want others to see in us. Before joining you all as your minister, I told a colleague that I was starting a remote half-time ministry. And they got a look of panic. And they said, "Wow, you will really need to teach them about shared ministry." Shared ministry where the work of the ministry is not just my work, but our work. What they meant, I think, was that I would need a lot of help, that we couldn't expect a half-time minister to do it all. And you've been lay-led since 2017. No minister. You lead worship, you engage in justice partnerships, you manage the selling of your building, all of it yourself for 6 years. You know about shared ministry. As I've started getting to know you, you've shared with me the ways you have served this congregation and this community. I've heard about the ways that you've stepped up when no one else did, how you came to worship services because you didn't want the room to be empty, how you moved out of your comfort zone to lead worship. You know shared ministry. The kind of shared ministry when you are aware that the very existence of the congregation might just depend on your leadership. In our conversations, I've heard about dwindling numbers of members. I've heard your pride in being able to continue key aspects of congregational life in spite of challenges. I've heard your angst at selling a building that felt like a piece of your identity. I heard some relief in the letting go. This congregation has held the andness of church life. You've lived and modeled a shared ministry that makes space for multiple truths to exist at once. I find that Unitarian Universalists are particularly adept at holding nuance. Maybe it's because with no creed to tell us all what to believe, it's necessary to hold that andness, the plurality of beliefs. Has anyone been to First Unitarian in Denver, Colorado? They have a beautiful stained glass window with a circular design. Do you remember this? The glass pieces surrounding, it's like this, but where those, I'm not even going to try to describe those. In going around the circle like that in glass rainbow colored pieces is a bunch of question marks. Because Unitarian Universalists hold the nuance of multiple perspectives, multiple beliefs, the andness of being creedless. And it strikes me that in these times of deep uncertainty, personally, congregationally, globally, that there is a strength we model in being able to hold the and. All around us, politicians claim that there are only certainties, that it is this way or that way, that there are polarities in life experiences. We continuously encounter leaders who try to convince us of easy solutions and the rightness of their actions. And yet we internally know that there is a complexity to the human experience. We need these brave spaces where we can show up and practice being real. Holy, Naomi Blackwood says in the poem that we read earlier, holy is the wound and holy is the healing. Holy is the name of justice, and it is the name of those who live and die without it. Holy is the name for the cathedral where we praise and hurt. This holy place is found in the disappointments and in the optimism. It's in the nuance of the human experience, in the and that we try to strive to hold together in love. And sometimes it takes a lot of love. In a time when we are trying to make sense of war and drastic climate change and political turmoil, a place where we can hold the and of it all in loving, authentic ways is a necessary place. I know that the ministry that we do together here helps us make meaning of the full spectrum of the human experience, and that we are not the only ones who need it. You've told me about the vital ministry you've done here. You've told me you are a place for religious outcasts, for the people who don't believe the same things or don't know what they believe. You've told me about times when you've lifted each other up and the ways that folks from Cadre Coffee watched out for each other's health, and when you celebrated a 100th birthday with joy. You told me about when you gave someone housing through Family Promise, when you held each other after the loss of a loved one, when you came together to offer support when someone desperately needed it. You told me about the ways you were vocal about your support of LGBTQ folks, which is life-saving work in a time when outspoken validation and love might make the difference for someone. This is sacred, holy ministry. So this year, I invite us to own and claim fully this practice of and holding as holy work. That when we show up in this space with each other, we bring our full selves, even the pieces that feel contradictory or unclear. It is in modeling our honest humanity that we will make space for others to show up in all of their authenticity. In essence, we come together as Unitarian Universalists to make meaning of the ands of our lives. The complicated multiplicity of experiences and relationships that all add up to a life well lived. This community makes those experiences holy. And we hold each other in an unspoken covenant that says, go ahead, bring the full messiness of your ands here, and I will bring mine too. And together we'll make sense of it all in love. May it be so. Our brains are constantly working, so much so that they can feel full. The to-do lists and reminders and worries. One study suggested that in one day, our brains will process 70,000 thoughts. And now you've added that thought to the other ones that you were already thinking. So I invite us to take a breath and breathe out some of those thoughts. Just let them out of your body with your exhale. And if they're still swirling, go ahead, take another breath and let a few more of those thoughts leave your body. When we are constantly thinking and doing, it's hard to make space for our heart to speak. So we're going to just take a few moments to listen for the deeper knowing inside us that isn't as loud, that isn't as boisterous, and that isn't as pushy. It just sits, waiting for permission to offer its wisdom. Let's take a few more breaths, softening into a space of groundedness. Offer yourself gratitude for making the time and space to be here this morning, for knowing that it would give you a moment to listen to your heart. And as thoughts rise to the surface, you can invite them to just take a seat for a few minutes, just right over here, while you make space for your heart to offer its wisdom. In these moments of stillness, what does your heart want to offer? Spirit of life, may all of these stones and candles, each holding a piece of what is on our hearts this morning, be held in this community with love. May they remind us that we are not alone, that each of us in the room holds a bit of the courage needed to do this life thing, that together we are stronger than apart. We know that in spaces around the country, right at this moment, there are Unitarian Universalists gathering, holding similar levels of strength and courage, and indeed around the world, maybe not meeting at just this time, but sometime soon. There are Unitarians and Universalists coming together to build up their courage to face the world. May we be held in that web of love. And may our connection with this community give us strength as we move through these days. Amen. Blessed be.
And now a few announcements. We'll be having coffee hour across the parking lot in the church education building on the second floor in the gym with the Presbyterians after our service. But before we do that, we have an exciting announcement. We have a new sign, and we'd like to unveil it for all of you after our service today. So it's right outside, right? Yep, we'll be meeting right outside right after our service for the unveiling of our new sign, and I hope to see you all there and then at coffee right afterwards.
Beloveds, go forth in full confidence that all of your ands are holy and that you are surrounded by love. Go in peace.